you do one good little cap raise development deal and you do right by them and you make sure you mandate doing right by them, that person has 100 people in their space, believe it or not. If they have a mindset to invest with you, once they go back and they say, hey, Jenny, I went with JSH, we did a deal at Avoca, right? It did these profits. It did these profits in that time frame. It 5x the stock market. I was updated the whole time. It was the best thing I've ever done. Guess what Jenny, Bob and Julian are doing?
Yeah, they're throwing in.
Right? Now you got more bandwidth again. Then you multiply that the following year. Now you're starting to talk about real traction.
Yep.
So it is all about starting small, starting fast, and then just doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing by those investors, and then that pool will just grow.
Welcome back.
Have we started?
Have we started?
Yeah. Oh, really? That's a good start.
What are we talking about today? Deal making.
Big passion of yours at the moment,
It's
isn't
a
it, mate?
big passion of mine.
Cap raising.
Well, it's more than cap raising. It's deal making.
Deal making, cap raising, structuring.
Dealing. Development deal making.
Yep.
Is what we're going to call it. Development deal making.
Well, I'll let you lead away, mate.
All right, I'll lead, and then you just kind of come straight back.
Chime in.
All right, so last couple of years, I'd say, I saw an opportunity, okay? Being an accountant and financial advisor and working with lovely people like yourself, right, and closely with yourself, that you've got a model, which we've talked a lot about, where you got the stock market, returns 10% on your money, right?
Yep.
And you got we'll call it the development market, okay, where you put your money in, you leverage debt, you get a feasibility and a return, and you 10x, give or take, what the stock market would be. Because you've got a 30% FISO with a geared debt position, right, which ends up with ultimately 100% return on capital. You'll see a lot of your feasibilities, that's what they spit out, or close to, some are over, some are under, around 100%. Now, when you lay that out, and you say this to me a lot of the time, you say, why can't we just do this all the time and lots, right?
Yep.
And then run a business of developing.
Yep.
And the big elephant in the room is ultimately capital and cash.
100%.
We don't have enough, right? We don't have enough for the deposit.
We're the only obstacle in development. If you know how to do it right and you have sites that come on your lap, it'll be cash.
It's cash, right? It's cash is king. Now, for a builder developer, and there's not a lot of them, but for a builder developer that like yourself, right? You know what you're doing. You know how to get the return. The cash is the critical thing. Now, most other people that aren't you, which is the majority of the population, right? They want to get development returns, but they've got no idea how to do it, right? They're not builders. They're not builder developers. And they just won't do it. They might do a flip here or there, but they won't do a development. Probably never in their life, right?
I think once they steer away from their own money, is when potential maybe flippers so there's a lot of flippers, right? There's your mum and dad flippers, there's a ton of them. But the moment I feel that they step away from their own funds is when they feel like they're stepping into dicey water, or they're not risk averse. They're not going to take the risk to do it. And then to get to that next part, you have to delve into external funds.
Absolutely. And for this development model, we know a lot of it's financed, but you've got to get the cash for the start, right? The deposit component or the deposit element.
So approximately anywhere from 30 to 40%.
100%. Now,
of total development costs.
Exactly. Now, if there's these majority of the population people, some that have a lot of money that will never develop, but want to get returns that are substantially better than the stock market, a good way for them to do.
Generally, a stock market would sit at around, what, 6%?
10%. Yeah, 6 to 8, really. Yep. But if you average it out at 10, Warren Buffett style, right? 10% return on $1 million is $100K a year.
Yep.
If they put the same $1 million into a development, right?
Like a development fund or a raise,
or just which we'll talk about, just putting in the money on a guaranteed return, it's going to be at least double, maybe most likely triple that.
That's the 30.
And the reason it will be is because, again, it's premised on trust. But if you've got a development and it's got a feasibility at 30% return, which we know on that initial money put in is 100% return on that because of the debt position or the debt utilization or debt leverage. If we give that investor back the money at like 17, 18, 19, 20, 25%, it's at least 5x the 6 to 8% stock market, which means we're doing the best thing for that investor. We're able to really get close to that, maybe not 100% return on capital because they're putting it in, but you're getting like 1,000% return on capital as a builder developer because you're not putting any money in.
Yeah, and as we just discussed them before, and then on the end of that, there can be clips of profits, which
you share in
17 to 18 turns it into a 30%.
100%.
But it's based on the money they put in.
Absolutely. So the investors are getting really, really wealthy. The builder developer is getting really, really wealthy. They're not hemorrhaged by having no cash, and deals are getting done. Development deals are getting done, and that's why you can see my energy change, right? That's why I'm so passionate about this, is because I've been there and I've done this, and I haven't done this lots for myself, transparently, right? We've moved into that water the last 12 or so months. But prior to that, I was doing it a lot for other people. Really, really, like investors, some small family members, some high net wealth individuals, had no idea how to develop, but saw the model, saw the feasibility, saw the merit, and invested in it and got freaking handsome returns. Like at least 30 to 40%.
Mean some with the builder that was doubling developments.
And they got to steer away from clients and do developments. And have opportunity.
And obviously on our end, when you look at it, so for instance, I guess if you're doing development finance, generally on a level playing field, it'll be somewhere between 9 and 12%, right? Let's give or take, if you're not with a bank. All right. So generally 9 to 12% with line fees and stuff. But as we were saying before, you might have to borrow 60 to 70% of that would be at 9 to 12%. For a development finance. And then as we were saying before, when you do a startup kitty, so for instance, you might quickly need to go do a 5, 10 or 20% deposit. So you might know, let's just say on a $5 or $6 million total development cost, you might need to push in about 1 mil, right? So you want to raise that 1 mil nice and quickly, not lose the site. Then, and then that when that dilutes through to the 9 or 12% and you're pumping them out at 17, you're really coming back down to 13% or something overall anyway. So it's still not a huge development cost. So once it's diluted, but it's enabling you to get more runs on the board. So you might be planning one, you might go, boom, I've got like the one we're talking about, a 6-month settlement on that's locked in. You need $250K to get that going with drawings and a 5% deposit, or you need 500 with a 10% deposit. That's locked away. You're planning that one, you're selling another one, and you're building another one, whatever. But you're just trying to minimize those gaps. So this little, I guess, cap raise or finance piece in between is a good topic because it's something that we're sort of
It's a passion.
Doubling in now more so we can expand this.
It makes everyone wealthier. Like it makes the investor wealthier, it makes the builder developer wealthier.
And there's ways that you can de-risk it for the investor, such as doing monthly repayments or quarterly repayments or 6 monthly repayments.
So let's talk about that. So in a development deal, irrespective of how people put money in, you've got two ways to play it, right? You've got like interest returns, which is when someone lends on debt. So when a bank lends you on debt, they get an interest return of 10%. An investor can do the exact same. Just because they're called an investor, they can lend the money in on debt.
You can structure it.
Yeah. So not on equity. So they lend the money in. They say, I want a mandated 20% return on my money. And they get their 20% return on money before any feasibility or end profits get distributed. So hypothetically, if you've got an investor with wealth, he puts $1 million in, like you just said, on a $6 million TDC, he gets a 20% guaranteed mandated return on his money. It gets to the point, it gets to the end of the development and there's no money left over. Bad luck, builder developer, you just lost your money, but you've created more trust in that relationship, done the right thing by the investor, and guess who's lending again? Guess who's lending on the next deal?
So you might not have a development, or not all developments are going to be
hunky-dory.
Exactly. You're going to have some that don't make money, or you're going to have some that make a lot, and there's just going to be a mixture of anything. It's like any sort of business. So, but as long as you're keeping that investor happy along the way,
do the right thing.
And you paid him his 200K, whether you made no money or not, you're going to get lend again the next time and the next time and the next time, which is more important than trying to penny pinch and try to on that.
Because you're still making 5 times more than working for clients.
Yep. 100%.
Like you are. And if you do the stuff which we talked about on every podcast,
Yep.
get the start right, get the first 3 months right, get the opportunity right, get the negotiation right, get the deal right, get
The first part is structuring it and then trying to secure that site, because the sites won't last long. As I told you this morning, but 2 fall on my lap yesterday, 2 crackers, multi-dwelling or duplex, whatever you want to call it, depending on how many you can fit on one of them. And it's all about, I've probably able to look at that for the next maybe week or so, 2 weeks, the best, before it goes to market or before it actually gets signed up by an agent. But these are just popped up, no one knows about them, ready to go, and they're crackers. So you want to be able to get your hands on those quick funds fast, especially if you're like us. Like at the moment, I'm selling brush. It's a big project that goes on the market now, about to kick off another one. So you want to be managing that cash, and by doing the cap raise or using investors is the quickest, fastest way. And as you were saying before, it's a very simple template of an agreement as well. It's not like a huge agreement or a huge contract. It's very simple and basic, written up by a lawyer, signed between 2 parties, done.
That's all it is.
Trust tucked away, money parked in a trust, away you go.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, mate, like for someone with your reputation, for example, if you fuck the agreement up, right, it's tarnishing your
100%,
reputation.
yeah.
So it
wrecks everything.
So the real sweet spot is with a builder with a bit of goodwill and a bit of brand, and has the reps and has the contacts. It's a no-brainer.
It is. Yep.
Like it is a completely no-brainer de-risk for someone wanting to invest
And
in property.
And also, as I was saying to you before, but that works. And then also having the finance model with you and the accountancy model with you, having those together, you're able to structure, and a good, obviously, good law team, but you're able to structure the deal better. And that also puts confidence in the investor as well. I think it's a bit, I think maybe just
you both.
Just running up and going, yeah, I'm going to do this. But
Nah, you need both.
You got to have a good blend,
and
that builder's got to step away from the builder. Right, I'm a builder and I'm a developer. I've got to step away from that builder.
You have to,
and you've got to be a developer.
You got your role and responsibility.
Exactly.
We've always talked about this is the perfect blend and the perfect synergy, and even more than that is you can't just go a builder and go grab an accountant that doesn't have any idea in his space, because it takes time to understand. You've seen some of the dumb shit I've had to do over time. I've seen some of the dumb shit you've done as well. But the point is you got to financially know the model. And I'll tell you one thing, when you've got a builder developer like yourself and you've got an accountant financial advisor like myself that know the model, the model is 10x the stock market, period.
Exactly.
Right? Which means you can easily, and I say this very confidently, you can easily de-risk your development and make it handsomely beneficial for anyone investing, whether it's a builder developer or it's a trusted network, because on either side, you're outweighing the market by at least 5x if you do the model right.
Yeah, and they're pretty good returns.
It's the biggest opportunity I've seen in being in finance for 20 years.
It is. And your returns are pretty quick as well, especially however you do structure it on their repayments. But generally on the development that you're doing, you're probably looking at 12 to 16 months, unless you're doing really multi-story or whatever, like, which is going to take a few years. And especially if you can find sites that that, I guess, like what we're trying to structure at the moment with one is that we can try and get a 6-month settlement, not have minimum money put in at the start. And then have everything done. And then the investor comes in right there on that minute you settle, and it's pretty much 12 months that they're going to get their money back, because you've done all the crap before it during that long settlement. And that's when you need your 20% up.
100%.
And put in to get the rest of the fund.
Yeah, they want to know your strategy. Exactly. They want to know.
So their money's coming back faster, and the quicker it comes back on them, they're going to go, is this? I've just made 200 or 250K in 12 months, didn't even have to do anything.
Exactly. Time kills sales, right? Time kills deals.
And that's why the development has to be successful, but also in a timely manner. Like, it has to be built on time for that investor, because you want them to continually keep investing. The moment they get their money back, they're like, well, sweet, I've got this back, I'm putting that back in. Or sweet, now I've got double, I'm putting that in that one, I'm going to put that in that one. And then it just starts to funnel out.
There's multiple components in that preliminary phase that are strategic plays for them to build belief in the timeline. So if you go there and go, there's urgency around this, it's going to auction next week, or it's off market until next week, then it's gone.
Yep.
There's urgency here. We want to seal it. Okay, are you interested? This is exclusive. And then you're positioning at that same point. What we're doing is we're delaying settlement by 6 months.
Yep.
So we don't even need to take the capital, only a minor part of your capital till then. And by that point, when we take your capital, we'll be designed and started. Okay, there'll be no effing around. There'll be no stuffing around. We're highly organized here with an exclusive deal.
And you don't want to be borrowing unless you're fully aware and set on how long that design period is going to take, especially going through a DA. You don't want to be holding someone's money that should only be taking 12 to 16 months,
mate.
And then you're holding it for an extra 12 months because you're holding it through that design phase. Number one, that's taking the fat off your profit.
It's tangibility.
And number two, it's taking too long for that investor to get their returns back.
They want to know as soon as their lump sum of money is hitting your account as an investment, they're seeing tangible movement on that property. Exactly. And you can give them a live update that you're not a bullshit artist, right? And it's moving. Here's a physical picture. Here's me at the site. Here's the video. And we're in front of timeline.
Taking along for the journey.
Yep. You've got to build that confidence. So yes, it all comes down as how good you are at deal making and organization and putting this together in a timely manner and removing blockages like long holds in DA or multi-story, etc., is stuff when you're already equipped in funder territory, right?
Well, you've pretty much got a fund there ready to go.
Yeah,
or a substantial backup.
We said it in, I think it was in like the triple M model. It's like time is critical. It's like a certain development done fast is so appealing for a proposition to an investor. Adhere to the triple M model, which we talked about. They're the easiest to raise capital off because they're so fast. You prove your trust. You prove your brand.
And then before you know it, you might have 4 or 5 investors that are continuing this roll and dough through.
Yeah.
Which, and you know, that circle's working well, developments are going well, you get more runs on the board, and you're acquiring sites when they turn up and they hit your lap, which is when you want to act on them. And then not only that, the investor's staying around and everyone's happy.
Yeah, and I talked about it today, like on a content piece I did, the 6 degrees of separation. So you do one good little cap raise development deal, and you do right by them, and you make sure you mandate doing right by them. That person has 100 people in their space, believe it or not. And if they have a mindset to invest with you, once they go back and they say, "Hey Jenny, I went with JSH. We did a deal at Avoca, right? It did these profits. It did these profits in that time frame. It 5x the stock market. I was updated the whole time. It was the best thing I've ever done." Guess what Jenny, Bob, and Julian are doing?
Yeah, they're throwing in.
Right? Now you got more bandwidth again. Then you multiply that the following year. Now you're starting to talk about real traction. So it is all about starting small, starting fast, and then just doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing by those investors, and then that pool will just grow.
Yeah. And I think a lot of commentary comes back and goes, "Oh, but what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work?" And I think if you can de-risk it so much.
Well, I think the biggest de-risking thing is monthly payments.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest de-risking thing, because at the end of the day, it's like when I do development finance, right? So, but that structure could change in regards to you can sort of restructure or adjust your interest rates with that as well, or your return rates, because it's the same as when I do development finance. Like if I go do, someone was asking a question today on Instagram, if I go do, interest, but it's paid monthly, which is obviously hurts the cash flow, and if I'm doing a decent development and I'm forking out 20 or 30K a month on one development, and then there's another development, it's a big cash flow restraint. Like it just takes a lot. But that rate of mine, because every development is completely different, and every development should be funded completely different to the other one. And that rate, I might get it maybe 9%, right? Give or take. But if I capitalize that and I go, well, I'm going to keep me 400K and try and do another project, or just keep a 400K buffer for contingency or whatever, that interest rate will probably jump up to a quick 12 to 13 because it's capitalized. But then people need to realize then they're capitalizing your money that pays it back. So for instance, if let's just say it was 10%, right, and it's capitalized and I'm borrowing 3 million, I'm really borrowing 3.3 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're paying 10% on the 3.3 million, not the 3 million. Yeah. So that's what people need to understand. Someone was asking the question today. But when I pay it back monthly, my rate's less because it's de-risked.
Yeah.
And it's the same setup with an investor.
Yeah.
I believe, if let's say an investor was going to do it where they're not going to get paid at the end of the project, they're probably going to look at maybe 18 or 19%. They're probably going to want a bit more. But if they're getting paid monthly, there's no reason why you can sit them at 16. Do you know what I mean? Because they're getting paid monthly. They're getting 16% returns every month, every 30 days in their bank.
Yeah.
That's de-risking, I think, because if the project topples over a bit towards the end or doesn't make the profits, they've still been, the returns have been given back to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And their capital gets paid back to them in full before anyone's getting paid any profits.
And then when they're getting that return in their hand monthly, they could be doing something else if those returns monthly and making more money.
Yeah. And I think an important point to make is it's about debt's them lending money. Equity's about them taking equity in the project to share the profits, right?
Yep.
You let people have options.
But you can also do both.
You can do both, and you can do them however the damn thing you want. You can say, hey, you get a 20% debt return until we build enough trust over time.
You get 10% profit share.
And you get 5% profit share. Or they're like, no, we don't want any profit share.
Yeah,
we just want to
take the interest.
Sweet. Go 22% with no profit share.
Easy.
And that's what it is. And then the others will go, no, we trust you, Justin. We've done this a few times now. We really want to share the profits.
You got more profits on the last one. I feel like I'm going to get a better bite.
Happy days then. Let's take a 6%.
So that's the beauty about this one-on-one cut rate is you can structure the deal
how you feel ready, based on the risk trajectory.
And also based on the development itself.
Absolutely. So you play it. You don't tell them what to do. You say it's up to you. Let's make it fair and feasible for you based on where you're at in the risk trajectory. That's it.
And we've got a little proposal for that at the moment, haven't we? So
it's flexibility, mate. But at the end of the day, this is all premised on making them 5 times wealthier than what they're running at now.
Exactly. Yep.
And not having to go and learn how to be a builder, not having to go and learn how to be a developer, but still getting the return.
Definitely one of the best ways to make returns without having to do
it
too much.
It suits everyone. It suits the investor.
But as I said before, critical to make sure that particular developer has got a trustworthy name, has got runs on the board.
You have to
and you can trust them. You don't want to just develop into someone who's just randomly popped up or
they were
like a builder and they're going to be a developer. They've got to know how to do it.
To be fair, the amount of builders that don't even know how to run a feasibility, right? Like honestly, like you'd be surprised.
Yep.
You have to do someone that knows what they're doing, right? And you've got to know how to run a feasibility. You've got to have good contacts and good agents. You've got to have a good advisor.
That's another thing. You need to look at their team. You need to look at who they're using, not just the person, not just the individual.
Well, look at what happened today with that letter. Like always, whenever you're doing a feasor, I'm saying make sure it's substantiated by letters and comparables and all the rest of it, right?
You got that in 5 seconds.
You've got to have proof.
Yep.
You can't just like put your finger in the air and go, oh, look, that seems like it could work. That's the problem. People just assume way too much.
Well, you need, and this is where it goes back to, I can't just go up to an investor and say, they're going to be worth 5 million when they're finished.
You can't.
Right? This is what I'm talking about, having the team. So when you're trying to pull an investor on, you need to have proof. Proof's in the pudding. You need to have professionals in that industry that need to validate that that's going to be worth 5 or 5.5 or 6 or whatever million, right? And you want to look at who's actually given out that appraisal. So it's not just about the developer, referring back to the letter that you're going to talk about. It's about the team that they have, the designers they have, everything. There's a lot of moving parts in the development. So the investor needs to make sure that all those boxes are ticked.
They do. You need to have that proof. Like, absolutely.
So that letter that Ryan was referring to before, so everyone knows, was the appraisal.
Yeah, which at the end of the day, you're getting most of these cracker opportunities from leading agents in Australia that you're heavily connected with and have built trust over a long time.
Yep.
They're the ones that are substantiating this, which again have big reputations. Yep. So if they go and write a letter to say its end sale is gonna be X, and then investors come on and they cite that name on those letter, it's not gonna look very pretty. So again, it's doing the right thing by people.
Yep.
But if you can build that case study and that proof, you go, hey, I've got a ticket to this development. It's timely. It's got a proven end sale price. We've got confidence in the build. We've negotiated unders on the purchase.
I'll provide the feasibility, which will be still a touch lower than what the appraiser would be on the NBR, just so there's uplift.
Prove your case. Right.
Just so there's uplift. You might say, oh, look, we're going to get 32% here on return, But with the uplift, because I've gone on a lower end of the appraisal, there's a possibility if you do have clip in the game in the end and not just going on an interest return, then there's a possibility there might be a 500K uplift.
Yep.
Right. So if you got 500% of that, you're sweet.
Yep. Yep. And again, that just to go off track a little bit, like I'm just going to go back to numbers on this stuff as well, because I think it's important if we're going to finish, we finish on the why. I think on this, because it's just it's so compelling. If I did a really simple calculation of how everyone benefits here, I think it will help listeners a lot to conceptualize what we're putting down. So simple case study. If I've got $1 million, right? So I'm the investor, you're the builder developer. Okay, I've got $1 million. I go chuck $1 million in the stock market, 10% return, like you said, maybe a bit less. I'll make 100K. If I got $1 million and I come to you, sorry, you come to me, you say, hey Ryan, you're the investor.
This opportunity.
I've got sign off. I've done my due diligence. I've got the FISO. I've got the recs.
Here's everything.
Here's everything. I go, I like it. What do you need? I need $1 million. Okay, cool. There's my $1 million, right? Now, you take the $1 million, you level up your finance, okay, on top of that, through your private lending, and you get to whatever that is, 3-4 mil, okay? Just for argument's sake, say 4 mil, okay? You get to 4 mil or close to, all right? You do a 30% on the 4 mil, it gets you to 1.2. You've just ultimately returned on that 100% of the capital. So the $1 million I put in, you've just made another $1 million. Now, ordinarily, that's 10x the stock market. The 100K versus the $1 million you gave back to me. It's a 10x return, right? What you do is, because you're the builder developer, because you found the site, because you've done all the work, and because we're starting out this relationship, overall of that $1 million, that interest cost that you would have paid me would have been factored into the feasibility already.
100%.
Okay, so that's 17%. Plus, on top of the 17% I just made on my $1 million, 170K. You've then gone to give me a bonus of, let's say, 10% of the $1 million, 100K. I've just made 270K on $1 million conservative. I'm cool as an investor. I've made 300K on $1 million, which is 30%. And you've just gone and made $750,000 with none of your own money.
Exactly right.
None of your own money. Plus you got the build contract.
Exactly.
Especially that's insanity.
Especially in your build developer model.
And if you wanna start out a bit more and de-risk the investor more, sort of pay them more. But then on those numbers, the investor would have made probably 400K, which means a 40% return, and you've still made 600K.
Which
plus the build contract.
You got to understand as well is when you're going into development finance, it's not far off. Like a development finance, it might be over 12 or 16 months, and it's say 9 or 10%, borrowed off, I don't know, a 70% LVR. On most developments, I sort of double in at the moment. They're returning $450,000, right? And they're putting in more than what the investor is. Do you know what I mean? Their business is, because it's lower rates and there's no clip on returns or profits. Yes, they have a line fee and they'll have a lower.
Well, they got security.
They got security because they got first mortgage, right? But they're similar returns. Do you know what I mean? And they've got first mortgage and you have second mortgage after it. But these guys are whacking in their $1 million in 12 months. They're getting their 250 or 300 back on the profits. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
But again, something to know, which confuses a little bit, is when you do a feasibility and you get to that 30%, you've factored in a lot of those, like these lending costs as well. So that $1 million I just spoke about, that's after a lot of the interest costs and a lot of the lending costs, and it's really spitting that back to the investor and the builder developer. So the numbers are so big, but as I always show as a disclaimer on always, is if you don't follow a good process and get a good site and do the right build and know the right end buyer,
you'll be done.
You won't make it work.
You'll be done. You won't get your second one.
That was a good sesh.
It was a good sesh. Good hit back.